Hello, one and all, and welcome to another episode of Baggers Chat. My name is Mitch Pattinson. As always, we're joined by Ethan Daffy, and today we are previewing once again. Last week we said for the semi-final. We can't believe we're previewing a semi-final. The week before, we couldn't believe that we were previewing an elimination final. This week, we're previewing a preliminary final. So, of course, we are travelling up to the Gabba to take on the Brisbane Lions Saturday, 5:15 p.m. at the Gabba. Massive game. And in your wildest dreams, we are one win off a grand final. So, first things first, Daffy boy, more importantly, how are you? How are you feeling? How was your week? And how excited are you for this week?
No, I'm good, Patto. As Carlton supporters in this time where a lot of our energy and time is going into thinking about, whether it's content we're bringing out or just thinking about Carlton as a whole, watching highlights and thinking about opposition players that might be playing this week. It's kind of that. It's unbelievable, like you said. It's a prelim final we're talking about here. It's no pushover. I feel like if you make the prelim final. I feel like the year, depends what your goal. Obviously, the ultimate goal right now is a premiership, which I think we can get. Of course, I'm looking at the premiership, but I think when you make that prelim, it's just that moment where you're the top four teams. I feel like winning that elimination is like, okay, that's good. But if you win a semi and make a prelim, that means you're the real deal. And I think now we are the real deal in terms of pushing for a premiership now. And look at the four teams. I think there's some pretty good football to be played this weekend with, Friday nights, Collingwood Giants, who the Giants are in great form, absolute great form, similar to us. I think both of us, I read today on Twitter that Carlton's mid-season turnaround is the best in the history of the game.
Yep.
From I think it's the latest a team's been in the bottom four to play in a prelim. So we were bottom four in round 15, and then the Giants are second all time.
Yeah,
second all time, and we broke their own record in the same season. So, it's a good time to be a blue bagger, Patto.
Yeah, well, of course, as you just said, then like the two teams, like we actually broke the record because, of course, we were the last team that's kind of been able to make a prelim, and we were so far down on the ladder. But also, as you just said, Giants are the next team, which is unbelievable to have two teams in 1 year in AFL history to be able to come back. And I think the AFL headline was, is this the greatest comeback of all time? And I reckon it has to be, because us supporters, like Carlton supporters, were pretty much looking towards next year, looking towards draft picks, all this. And we've been saying this for every week. We just still can't believe that we're in the position of not even just playing finals. We're in a prelim. So even just to come back where we were 15th on the ladder, as you just said, and to be able to find our way and to regroup as a club, and to really challenge towards, as you said, like now that we're past that semi-final, I guess later, like just over that win, now we're over to a prelim, and we're like, anyone can win, because now there's four teams standing, and we now go into next week, and who knows? But we're going to get straight into it, Daffy boy. So we'll start off with our potential inclusions. There were two injuries that came out from last week. Blake Acres is a little bit different because it's just been an ongoing injury from that collarbone injury against the GWS Giants by memory. But he seems fine. He was very sore after he kicked that goal. If you watch a few seconds later after he celebrated and went off the ground, he was very sore. And a lot of Carlton supporters were quite worried about that. But it just seems like he seems like the guy that he will play no matter what. Like, even if he has to put his body through the absolute limit and he has to have surgery at the end of the year, which a lot of players are seeming like they will. He's just a player that will do every single thing in his will to move everything out of the way to make sure that he's in that prelim final on Saturday. But also the other player that we'll touch on is, of course, Sam Docherty, and he of course had a dislocated shoulder through the game. At that point in time, we were all thinking as Carlton supporters that he was done for the game, was probably done for the season. And he's found a way to more importantly play out the rest of the game. But also now he's in the contention of playing this weekend against the Lions. And my opinion is I think he plays. He played so well towards the end of the game. There's no reason why we can't see that on prelim final day either. But those two names, Daffy Boy, how important are these guys for this Saturday in the prelim?
Well, yeah. You know, you said it perfectly. I think his last half an hour of the game was probably his best half an hour. I thought he had a good game as a whole, but I think he really stepped up, and to be able to, you know, drive his legs and kick it as long as he did in that last kick on last quarter legs, last minute legs is just admirable. And I think both of them are so important. Obviously, they're two guys who won us the game in terms of the last play of the game, but also I think they're just two, you know, steady heads in the lineup that, you know, really provide that kind of calmness and just solid contests around the ball, and they're big bodies. And obviously they've played a lot of football in their time. So they must play on Saturday. They must play on Saturday. But for me, you know, a little bit of a sneak peek in terms of lineup, I think Ollie Hollands will be the sub again, because you've got two guys who play the wing who are a little bit, you know, not under. I don't think they're underdone. I just think they're just sore bodies currently. And the way Ollie played, I wouldn't even be unhappy if he played a whole game.
Yeah. Well, completely spot on. And we'll now move straight into the ins and outs. And this is a conversation where it's what we're going to do. Because right now, I know that there's two absolute ins. Like the exact same as last week, I think it was, where we had pretty much two locked-in players to come back in. I think it was the Eliminations final, sorry. And you have two locked-in players, but who are you going to bring out? And I think it's the same sort of conversation this week, where it's Harry Mackay and Jack Martin both need to play. Because, of course, Harry Mackay, hopefully he's recovered from his concussion. It seems like he's all good to go, green light, ahead for the prelim final. So it seems like he's good to go. And, of course, Jack Martin is over his one-game suspension, a bit of an unlucky suspension in my opinion, but we'll move on from that because we're, of course, playing a prelim this week with Jack Martin playing, but he will play this week 100%. But Harry Mackay is a bit of a touch and go, but it still seems like he's well and truly ready to go because I think he'll do everything to play. And if he is fit, he is 100% playing. So the conversation's done with that. The conversation whether Charlie Curnow plays better without Harry Mackay, that's over because last week it was shown that without Harry Mackay there for Charlie, doesn't help him. But when they're both playing, we're a better side. And there's people that can say Harry Mackay's shit, all this stuff. It pretty much shows right now that Harry Mackay is one of our most important players out there because the structure-wise in the line, unbelievably underrated. I still think he's underrated by a country mile. I think the work that he does, like, of course, he's the one guy that would love to put his hand up and say, I know that I need to actually finish on the scoreboard. I know, like, he knows that. But I hope he also knows that he's so important and he's so instrumental to this team that when he gets his body out on the field on Saturday night for the prelim, he's going to, hopefully mentally, he knows how important he is. But Daffy Boy, ins and outs, who are you bringing in and who are you bringing out? And also name your sub. I know that you've given a bit of a sneak peek for Ollie Hollands, but maybe some other options as well for a sub.
Yeah, it's you know, I think this week's probably a little bit easier than the weeks prior in terms of selection. I've got two changes for this game. And I was reading someone's tweet last night and it almost got me to three changes. But I'm just gonna hold off on that and I'm just gonna go with what I was gonna originally go with. Like we say every week, both of us, whatever happens at the selection table, we're gonna, you know, support that, you know, call. I feel like our selection the last, you know, 12 or so weeks has been really, really, really good. And I think selection's so important in terms of winning the game. I think Melbourne really set themselves up to lose the game on the weekend in terms of they didn't use their sub, what's the point of that selection? And, you know, they didn't pick Grundy. So it ultimately did hurt them. It actually did hurt them quite a bit. But they're off the bar this week. We're playing prelim. But on to ins and outs. Obviously, like the two names you touched on, for me, it's Harry and Jack Martin in the side. It's going to be good to have Jack Martin have the week off, rest the legs, rest those soft tissues that we always talk about. And with Harry, I just think, you know, I think it's been a disappointing year personally for him. in terms of form. I don't think he's been up to where I think he can play in terms of scoreboard pressure, like you said. I think, he's kicked 27 goals this year. I know he's had a few injuries and stuff like that. It's probably not good enough, but like you said, structurally crucial, absolutely crucial. And for some reason, there's something about this game that I feel like he's gonna stand up in it and kick a couple goals. All the eyes are on Charlie's form in the minute, and I think Harry can really help that out. And obviously, Jack Martin, structurally wise, is needed. The outs for me, I've got Matt Kennedy out for Jack Martin. I think I had no issues with Kennedy's game on Friday night, but I just think Jack Martin in a prelim final is going to be massive, and I just don't think Kennedy has that spot at half forward. And for Harry, obviously, it probably takes off a little bit of forward time for TDK. He'll still play up there a bit. I just don't think he'll play there as much as he did on the weekend. So I've dropped David Cunningham, who I thought really struggled on the weekend, which led to him being subbed. I thought the sub was actually to be used earlier, the doc, and then obviously they subbed off Cunners. But we love Cunners. I think if he does play, I'm not going to be against it, because I think the Gabba, you just need leg speed at that ground, and he does provide that. But I just feel like he's been off the pace the last couple weeks for mine.
Yeah, well, I completely agree. And as you said then, like about the leg speed at the Gabba, this is like there's some changes I've made, and I'm going to keep them where they are. But there's two names that, I mean, my ins are the exact same as yours. My other out is exactly the same. But there's two names that I want to try and speak about where I want your opinion about
for sure.
whether you think it's kind of valid that this guy should be dropped. So, of course, Harry Mackay and Jack Martin I'm bringing into the side, of course. I like the idea of Pitto and TDK playing as the ruck, and TDK transitioning forward. And then when Pitnet is not in the ruck, he goes off the ground. Love that. Because we saw on the weekend where when he wasn't in the ruck, he went off. And TDK.
Yes.
So TDK played a fantastic game on the weekend because he was pretty much on the ground the whole time. Like, of course, he came off a bit, but he was on the ground for most of the time. And when he was in the forward line, that was kind of his resting period until he dominated in the ruck. So in Harry Mackay and Jack Martin, out, Matt Kennedy, completely agree. It's just stiff. Like, we all know that he's not a half forward, and hopefully heading into next year, it's going to be an interesting sort of chat where Kennedy is going to hopefully be in this best 22, but what spot can he find in this best 22? That's the discussion. Now, the other players. So I have Cunningham. So I have Cunningham as the other out. Chin Cotter. So this is the conversation where the leg speed, because I was thinking the exact same thing, where at Brisbane you need leg speed, you need legs, you need speed, and that's why Chin Cotter, he's not necessarily fast, because I'm almost thinking about Mitch McGovern as well. Those are the two guys, and I think Gov has to play. He definitely has to play. But in terms of leg speed, I think we just go. I mean, we will touch on the key matchups, of course, later on. But I think we are quite tall in the defense anyway, because we just would go straight to a Danaher or a Hipwood. Kemp will go on the other key forward. Other than that, we don't really expect Jack Gunston to play. You probably need some smalls down there, because you've got Rayner, Bailey, Charlie Cameron, Lincoln McCarthy. There's these guys that are these small forwards that really get speed, like they really get going when they actually have some area in front of them. And that's what, at the Gabba, you always see goals kicked right on the goal line, because it's guys like Charlie Cameron and Zach Bailey sprinting away and getting an easy goal straight on the goal line. So Chin Cotter and Cunningham, Duffy boy, do you like the do you like the, I don't know how to explain it, like the Chin Cotter being dropped? Is it a bit harsh because he's been very good the past 2 weeks and pretty much the whole year?
It's a tough one. No, I really like Chink. I think he has to play. I think he has the ability to lock down one of their best small forwards. It's tough. So you're bringing in Harry and Jack Martin
Martin.
for Kennedy and Chincotta. So you're losing a
Well,
defender.
well, right now I'm getting Chincotta out.
Yes.
So Doherty could go in as the defender.
Oh, as a defender.
So you're
Okay.
kind of gaining a defender, but you're also losing a midfielder. But that means that Cottrell and Akers can have full-on wing time. And then if you need to have a wingman there, you could always transition Doherty forward. Because in total, we have 6 defenders anyway, without Chincotta. So it's right now, I'm going to say Mackay and Martin are in for Kennedy and Cunningham. I think that's definitely what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised if Chincotta gets dropped either. I wouldn't be surprised. But I like the mature body of Chincotta because he's 26. And yes, he's not experienced in AFL football, but he's experienced as a player. So that's why I just think Chincotta will stay in for mine, but it's just a conversation where maybe you do drop one of these guys and Doherty would go back. So it's just a conversation. But right now, I will go the exact. I've gone a bit of the easy part where I will just keep the same way, same ins and outs with you. But my sub is Matt Kennedy.
Okay. Yeah.
So mine's a little bit different. So instead of Ollie Hollins coming in as that winger, I loved him on the weekend.
Yeah.
But I think I would like to have the contested ball as the sub because you know that Matt Kennedy can play anywhere as well. So he can play half forward, he performed quite well in a semi-final against the D's. But also, if you lose a mid, you can trust that he will go into the mid as well and dominate. But of course, that's the ins and outs. And now we'll move on to the ground overview. As always, we touch on the backline, midfield, ruck, and forwards. But as we always do, we're going to touch on the backline first. And it's a bit of a anticipated matchup. And it's Nick Newman up against Cam Rayner. So, of course, Cam Rayner is a former number 1 pick. I think this year has been by far his best year. I think he's well and truly found his position in that forward line. He was kind of experimented into that halfback flank at the start of the year. Brisbane knew that it just didn't work. You then put a guy like Cam Rayner up forward, and he's been very, very good. So, but also to touch on Jacob Wiedering, who does he play on, in your opinion, Dapper Boy? And also Adam Sard, do you think it's quite clear that he goes straight to Charlie Cameron, or is there anyone else that you think he might go to? But to try and focus on Nick Newman and Cam Rayner, Dapper Boy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's they've got a lot of options up forward. The Lions, it's really hard to pick the matchups. I think the Cameron one with Sard, I think that's probably in terms of speed. I think he can pretty much match Charlie Cameron, who's he's had a fantastic season for sure. And I think is he leading their goal kicking? He's got to be up there. I think he might be. Yeah, I think he is.
He has to be.
I think when he's on, they're on for sure. So that's going to be an interesting one. But yeah, with Newey and Rayner, it's Rayner, I can never put a finger on how he's performing sometimes. He's an interesting player. Like you said, they experimented him back, which I just didn't really understand. He's the perfect type of explosive forward they have. And they've also got Zach Bailey in there, who I reckon's an absolute star. So yeah, it's Newman probably goes to Rayner, but then you also got if Chink plays, and then there was a few tweets out there about Jordan Boyd, but because you think about Marchbank in terms of speed, does he play? I'm not sure, because it's so interesting. It's so interesting because there's so many different defenders that can go into that 6. I've read that tweet about Boyd, and in my head I'm going, fuck, he'd actually be all right in this type of game. So it's. I think Newey will get the job done on Rayner or whoever he's on. I think for me with Newman, it's what he does with ball in hand. He's just got to clean up that area because he had 10 claimers on the weekend. But I think he had a really good game apart from that. I just think his ability to take marks, he's good on the ground. He's kind of that. He doesn't look fast, but he can keep up with forwards. He's a bit of a weird type of defender in terms of you're not sure what the hell he's going to do, because he can take marks in packs, but then go. And then his ball use is really good on most of the time. So, and with Waiters, Danaher and Hipwood just frustrate me, man. You can't. The matchups are so hard because they're pretty athletic, both of them. In a sense, I don't think they're like a Harry Mackay. Well, Harry Mackay's athletic as well, but they're not that key forward like a Tom Hawkins, where Wiedering will go straight to Hawkins. You know what I mean? Like Danaher and Hipwood, they switch. Both one goes high, one goes low. It's like it's going to be a real, pull and push lever type kind of affair there. So for me, Wieders, he's been good on any opponent. He's even picked up smalls in some minutes of the games. I think on the weekend he had I think he had Cozzy for about 2 or 3 minutes. I couldn't believe, but he was actually like keeping track with him. So I think it's more about our back six. We can't allow them to have one-on-ones. We've got to, force them long, because I think that's our bread and butter. And I think that's what hurt Melbourne on the weekend when they were going long. We were able to cover it off. My one challenge for the back line is take more marks. Take more marks. So I think on the weekend that let us down just a little bit when there was a time to take a mark, and Marchie was up or Wieders was up probably in the second half of the game, when you need that kind of take the air out of it a bit. They just dropped it sometimes. And then it goes to all on the deck. Cozzies, all those types of guys are in there. And look at Brisbane, mate. They've got Cameron, Bailey, all these other guys, midfielders running through there, Dunkley's. Like, they've got a really, really good team when I start naming those players. So it's going to be interesting, Patto, but we back them in every week, don't we?
Yep. Completely spot on, Duffy boy. Completely spot on. But we got it. So earlier when you said about Charlie Cameron being the leading goal scorer for Brisbane, I thought he was an absolute lock that he was the leading goal scorer. He's not. He's not. He's one goal behind Joey Danaher.
Yeah.
I didn't think Joey Danaher's had that good of a season, but it shows there that he's fifth goal kickers right now behind Green, Larkey, Walker, and of course this guy called Charlie Curnow. I don't know who that is, Daffy boy, but he's on 80 goals or something, so he must be pretty good. No, but that surprised me because I saw it. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, Joey Danaher is obviously one goal in front of Charlie Cameron, but no, I completely agree about the Hipwood Danaher switching, because I think Wieders would have to go straight to Danaher to start off with, but when Danaher goes into the ruck, which he has been as a second ruck, probably Wieders would probably go straight to a Hipwood, but because I also did see it against Sydney as well. I think Wieders went straight to Tom Papley when like a Logan McDonald or a McLean went off the ground.
Yeah,
he just went straight to Papley because Wieders doesn't spend much time off the ground, so he pretty much stays on the ground the whole game. And if a Charlie Cameron, I don't think he'll go to Charlie Cameron, but I think he might go to maybe a Lincoln McCarthy, because aerially he's quite solid. So Wieders could kind of hold a McCarthy down to a stretch. But I think it's well said about all those players. So we'll now move on to the midfield, and it's a bit of a ball magnets sort of matchup, and it's of course Paddy Cripps against Lachie Neale. So of course both of course Paddy Cripps is the captain, and of course Lachie Neale this year has been the co-captain alongside Harris Andrews. But this is a big matchup. And another player before I transition to you, Daff, is Hugh McCluggage, and he had a super game against Port Adelaide, and I think he's still been quite solid this year. I know that he's had some down games, and I think his football is very similar to Cozzy Pickett. His best is very high, but when he's not on, he's quite vulnerable. So to touch on Paddy Cripps v Lachie Neale, Duffy boy, but to touch on Hugh McCluggage, and if you think we need to put some attention to him, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the Brisbane Lions base their game off their midfield and their impact on the game. I think, you look at their midfield. I'm just looking through their names from their qualifying final right now, and you look at their midfield. Neils, Berries, Dunkleys, McCluggage, Zorkos, Bailey, Rayner. They can all run through the middle. So they've got a lot of names they can run through there and kick goals. I think that's a massive part of being a good football side and having midfielders kick goals. And what happened on the weekend, we had Sam Walsh kick 2, and it just leads to wins. I think it takes a load off forwards, and it gives it a bit more threat around the stoppage forward of the ball. But just on what you're saying in terms of matchups, Cripps v Neale, 2 Brownlow medalists. I rate Neale pretty highly. I don't want to talk too much up about him, but you got to respect the way they go about it. And He's always a top 5 midfielder in the comp the last couple of years, and there's no, the reason why he is because he performs week in, week out.
Yeah.
For this Brisbane Lions outfit, and despite them not winning a premiership, he's been consistent every single season he's played for him since he's come over from the Dockers. So, yeah, with Cripper, I think he was his best best final last week compared to the week before. I think he was tagged by Mills. It was a bit of a different kind of environment in terms of the midfields on the weekend, but Cripps, he can get the job done. I think for me, and I think he's going to be an uncaged animal come Saturday afternoon. I think I read another tweet. I've been all over the Twitter today, just reading through people what they're saying, because I'm all excited. But someone said, right now, I think players like Cripps are going to think, we haven't had the opportunity to be here before. We can't let this slip. We can't let this slip because you don't get off. Next year, who knows? Like, hopefully, we're playing finals, and hopefully, we're playing in grand finals next year. But right now, we've got to focus on winning this game because you don't get many opportunities to win a grand final with the momentum you have, the injury luck we have currently, touch wood.
Yeah.
So he's going to be going really hard. McClunkey's really good. He had a really good game that qualifying. I think the one, negative of his game is that his accuracy in front of goal has been the issue, and people often talk about that, but they don't often talk about what he does around the ground and stuff like that. So, he's a really good player and he gets him up and about, and he's young as well. I think he's like 26, 27. So, it's interesting the way both teams started their rebuilds the exact same time in 26, start of 2016, 15. And remember everyone used to talk about us and Brisbane? They used to always talk about us and Brisbane. And 2018, they went finals. We went bottom.
Down.
And now we meet again with that list. With the lists we've been building over these years and evolving, we finally meet in a prelim final that people were picking both of our teams to be good at the same time. So it's going to be interesting that.
Yeah, it's actually a really good conversation there because I never really thought of it like that. Where 2015 we were, I think we were last on the ladder, of course, but I think Brisbane was second last. So we were both very, very awkward. But it just shows how crazy the rebuilds have gone. Where 2018, as you just mentioned, we were last on the ladder with 2 wins, and Brisbane were, I think they made the prelim, didn't they? So I think
2019. So 2019, so 29, what did we come? Third last, and they came second.
Yes, I thought so. Yeah, yeah, because but still 2018, they were still solid, and they were, of course, still better than us because we got 2 wins. We're not going to go back to that. So, but it's really well put also about the injuries and making sure that you make the most out of this opportunity right now, where pretty much the only player that isn't playing that's an absolute lock in our best 22 is Zach Williams. That's pretty much the only player, and it's quite fascinating to imagine where next year when we have an inclusion like Zach Williams, what that does to a guy like Nick Newman who's done really well this year, Chin Cotter, Marchbank, Kempy, all these guys that Zach Williams, you just know that you have to make way for because you know the type of player he is. I think it's going to be once again, we're not even going to talk about it at the end of the season because we're still in this season, but it's really well put where you need to make the most of this opportunity right now because, as we all know, they don't come often. So you make the most of them right now, and the pressure's on, but the pressure's been on the past 2 weeks. So, and they're not coming off a high where on the weekend they won a game. They didn't play at all. So it happens a lot in finals football where the first half, the players are starting to regroup again because they're like, shit, we haven't really experienced this for 2 weeks. It's hard. Yeah. And it's such a short term, but it actually matters a lot. So that's just why you can see it from both sides where pros are, they've had the week off with a rest, but the other side is we haven't played football, though, the past week. So it's a big conversation. But now we're going to move on to a highly anticipated matchup once again, which is Mark Pittonet up against the big O, Oscar McInerney. So I still rate McInerney very, very highly. I think he's probably arguably top 3 ruckman in the comp right now. I still think he's very, very solid. But, of course, TDK and Danaher, who we assume will be the second ruck for the Brisbane Lions on there. on the weekend, Duffy boy. How do you see this matchup playing out, Pitto and McInerney, but of course, TDK v Danaher?
Yeah, I agree. I think McInerney's definitely one of the elite ruckmen, and I think he's had to work his way up in terms of his ability. I think I remember being at a VFL Grand Final in 2016. He was playing for Casey Demons, so he's gone through a few years of VFL, got picked up by the Lions, and now look at him. So shout out to him, because it's not an easy thing to do. I think people just go like, oh yeah, these guys. Look at Chin Cotter. Like, he's 26 and he's had to work his way through a couple of ACLs and all that type of stuff. So it's really good to see. But yeah, I think it's going to be a tough matchup for Pitto. I think he can get it done though in terms of ruck contest, stoppage work. So I think Pitto's stoppage work is, it's probably arguably not, one of the best. He's got to be one of the best tap ruckmen in the competition in terms of hit outs to advantage, because he dictates a lot in the ruck contest, and that helps our mids massively. People don't talk about it because he has these 6 disposal games, but he has 30 hit outs. And most of those hit outs are going straight down the throat of Walshy and Cripper and Ches and all those types of players. So, it's going to be interesting, the matchup. I think to minimise McInerney's impact, it's forward of the ball, because he kicks goals. He kicks goals all the time. So when he's in the ruck and he's going forward, Pitto's got to keep lock on him. When he goes forward, I'd imagine Weeders probably goes to him. So that's another tool in their forward line that they can put down there. So it's going to be interesting, but I know that Pitto can get the job done in terms of around the ground ruck contest wise, because they're both big bodies. They're not like TDK and Danaher, who I'll touch on now. And it's TDK's game from the weekend. That his first quarter kept us in the game. I think, what was 21-2 down. He gets a couple goals, gets us up and about, and straight back into the game. So with Danaher, he's a second ruck, but he's not a ruck in a sense. He's not a ruck. Let's just be real here. And if TDK is facing him as a second ruck, I can see TDK beating him around the contest and beating him around the ball too, in terms of getting the ground balls and stuff. TDK is just, we are lucky to have him. We are seriously lucky to have him. What is he, 24, and he's really coming into his own. And his best game was in the semi-final at the MCG. So I back both Pitto and TDK, and it's worked well. They've worked well together in the last 10 weeks or so, which has been really, really good to see, because I think the common conversation we had on Bagger Chat was, is the ruck mix working? We had some weeks where we had Lewis Young and Silvani as our rucks. So it's it's always going to be a conversation, because other teams always throw different challenges at you in terms of their second rucks and first rucks. So yeah, in terms of that, I think we can definitely hold our own.
Yeah, it's really well said, because even earlier on in the year, I actually remember saying that the ruckman is a dying position. And I still think it is, in a sense of, it's not where it's not like the ruck position isn't where it used to be. But I still think I think the conversation where Pitto and TDK working together, I'm so pleased that it's worked in the crunch time of the season, because when you needed a few crucial hit outs, you knew Pitto was going to win it. And if you needed a few marking contests down the line, you knew TDK was going to mark it. These two guys working together and the cohesion between the two, it's been pretty sensational. But so before we touch on the forward line, you touch on there about of course Big O going into the forward line and what we're going to do to try and stop that. You touch on there about Weeders potentially going to Big O. Do you see that happening 100%, or do you see, whether Weeders is on a hip wood, do you see him staying on him for the whole game, or when Big O comes forward, do you maybe see a shift in matchups?
I think size-wise, you have to have Wiedering on him. I think we've got, Kemp, McGovern and Marchbank can cover Hipwood and Danaher, in my opinion, when McInerney goes forward. I think McInerney's too big on our other back. So, yeah, he's a mismatch. Ruckman are always mismatches up forward. It's just about how you use them. So it's going to be important when McInerney goes forward that we aren't allowing him to have a run and jump at the ball. Because look at the size of the man. He's what is he? 18 feet tall and 400 kilos. So it's it's a tough matchup for anyone, even Weeders, who's the size of a truck. So
Okay, so now we will move on to, once again, a very anticipated matchup for the weekend, and it's Charlie Curnow up against the co-captain Harris Andrews. So, of course, there's a bit of conversation, and I'll get you to touch on a bit of news, David Boy, about Jack Payne, but we aren't too sure if Harris Andrews will go to Charlie Curnow or whether Jack Payne will go to Charlie Curnow, or, of course, with Harry Mackay coming back in, whether those two, we aren't too sure who goes to who. But of course, earlier on in the year, Harris Andrews went straight to Harry Mackay, and Jack Payne went to Charlie Curnow. And as you touched on before we started the episode, Duffy Boy, Jack Payne actually played quite well on Charlie Curnow. But before I transition to you, Jack Martin and Jesse Motlop, very excited to see them two together to play a good. We expect Jesse Motlop to stay in. And I'm very excited to see those two actually go to battle on Saturday night together. And of course, my last question before I transition to you, Daffy Boy, is do we put some work into Connor McKenna? So McKenna is one of those guys that's the rebounding, creativity sort of defender where he can really, it doesn't seem like he has much of a plan when he gets the ball, but most of the time it works out. So what's your thoughts on that? But also touch on Charlie Curnow, and also to make sure and also make sure that you touch on Jack Payne and the news you have at the moment.
Yeah, so obviously I'll just start off with the whole Curnow matchup. I think, based on what I've seen, obviously Jack Gunston's fit to play, and Jack Payne had a moonbed on last week, but I think there was more to get rid of the swelling of his ankle injury, and they reckon he'll play. He'll have a final fitness test, but most likely they just do that precautionary. So I think he will play, which is a big in for them. I think it frees up Harris Andrews massively. I think Harris Andrews one-on-one, when he's forced to go one-on-one, isn't as good as when he's flying over packs and taking grabs, which is his strength. Clearly, that's his strength, and, good on him. That's just the way their back six works. But yeah, I think if Payne's fit, they've got to go him on Curnow, and then when they try to double team Curnow, they'll probably go Andrews over the top. That's what they did all last time we played him. I know our ball use in that first half of the year was pretty grim going forward, so it didn't help our forwards anyway, and it definitely helped them massively. So, yeah, what can you do? What can you do? We've got good forwards up there. We should be able to get the job done forward of the ball if we're good enough. If we're good enough, and so I'd imagine Payne on Curnow and then Andrews on Mackay being at that second over the top fair bit, similar to Lever and May in a sense. Martin and Motlop. Yeah, obviously Motlop has to play based off our selections. We've got him in. So I think he was crucial last week. He 2 massive goals. I think that second last goal has not been talked about enough. I think, obviously the Akers goal is going to be, the special one, the last one. But I think the actual, the skill of the, Motlop goal was, he could have, I thought he hit it wrong. Like when he snapped it, I thought he hit it wrong. It's so hard to kick on the wrong side in terms of snapping it that way. With the game on the line, and we had the momentum against us, especially in that probably first 15 minutes of that last quarter. So he has to play. He's got moments written all over him this weekend, Jesse, and Jack Martin as well. Snaps out of packs, taking big grabs, kicking goals. And Jackie Martin's had a week off, and Harry as well has had a week off. I know he had a concussion, but it's probably good for the body to have a week off, so we can hit it hard this week and hopefully lead us to a grand final berth, Patto. But on the last point, I think it's a really good point that you put in here with McKenna. I think, as a forward, I think one of the most important things is not letting your opponent have impact the other way. And I think in the modern game, the last probably 10 years, halfbacks have become so valuable in terms of how they play. You got Sards, you got Sinclairs, all those types of halfbacks around the league, just so crucial and important. Rivers from Melbourne as well. All those types of halfbacks are so crucial to starting and kickstarting an attack. And McKenna, like you said, he's a crazy man. Like he's the typical Irish type of player in terms of you don't know what the hell they're going to do, but they'll hit a target. And he's got that pace, he's got that speed, and he's put together quite a solid year. He's stayed in the best 22 most weeks, which people were kind of surprised by probably at the start of the year because he's missed, a couple of years of footy. So, you probably look at, whether it's, Motlop, not Motlop, Fogarty, keeping an eye on him. It's got to be collective. I think for us to win the game, and the way we've won the last 2 weeks hasn't been off individual, focusing on individuals. I think as a team, we've got to not enable McKenna to get easy touches. He'll have his kick outs and stuff like that. But when, the ball's there to be won, I'd rather someone else have the ball in hand, right? Like a Jack Payne or a Harris Andrews rather than McKenna.
Yeah.
I'm not underrating Harris Andrews and Jack Payne, but I know McKenna can drive the ball forward into attack and get it deep inside 50 at the Gabba as well. Because like we said, it's all about, foot speed, leg speed. It's a smaller deck compared to the MCG. So they play it really well. I think they've won 11 games or 12 games there this year without a loss. But the media's been saying they can't lose. They can't lose the Gabba. They can't lose. Very similar to the chat last week. Melbourne can't go back-to-back straight sets, can they? They can't. Well, we're to prove them wrong again, based off my prediction I'm about to tell in about 5 minutes.
Well, like if you're a usual tune, like if you usually tune into our episodes, I think Daffy and I think we're a little bit too biased at the most of times. And once again, I'll give you a little bit of a sneak peek as well. I expect to see the Blue Baggies into the grand final of my but yeah, actually touch on that, and I think it's a good conversation. That's why I think I think that's why we put it in the run sheet where, say if Harris Andrews or a Jack Payne was to go back and intercept that mark, I would rather, they can't have Conor McKenna running past to give him the handball. You can't allow that. And also, I'm pretty sure Kitty Coleman's still playing. Is it?
Yeah, he's good.
He's the best 22. So he's good, because I wasn't sure if he was still in, because I rate him very highly. And another player where you can't allow that. You can't allow a Kitty Coleman or a Conor McKenna to go past, because you've got one right footer, then you've got one left footer, and they're both equally as effective. So you can't allow that, and that's why I completely agree. Where a Fog has to go straight to one of these guys and always keep an eye on him, because if they get it intercepted a defender and they intercept the mark, you can't allow these guys running past, because that's when, as you said, they drive the ball forward, and that's when Brisbane play their best, especially at the Gabba. But of course, they're undefeated this year at the Gabba, and it's a very Brisbane type game to lose this. They're at the prelim. They haven't lost at the Gabba all year. They're once again one win off the grand final. It's a very Brisbane type way to lose. But as you said then, last week, Melbourne, everyone was thinking, there's no chance Melbourne will go straight sets.
Yep.
What do we do? So once again, it's another game where we've got nothing to lose. Brisbane's got all the pressure. We have a little bit of pressure, of course. I think it's warranted. Sure. Yeah. But we go into the game where we've got nothing to lose, because no matter what happens at the Gabba on Saturday night, we've had a great season no matter what. So I'm just now excited to watch the Carlton fucking Footy Club. It's unbelievable. So, Daffy boy, before we wrap up the episode, as you just touched on, then a bit of a sneak peek for the winner plus margin. But match predictions, mate. Best on ground, point of difference, winner plus margin. Who have you got?
Yeah, so every week it's it's straight from the brain and sometimes from the heart too, and the gut. Different parts of my body often contribute to these predictions, but no, best on ground for me. I think he's going to get it again. I think he's leading the best finals player right now in terms of votes. I think the coaches' votes. It's going to be Sam Walsh. He's going to be best on for me. He's went for Brisbane as a kid. It's his first prelim final. We're talking about Sam Walsh in the prelim final, Patto. It is exciting. It's getting the blood up and about it. My blood pressure's going up right now just talking about it. But I think Walshy will be best on ground. I think if he has a good game, I think it can really push us forward to a victory, hopefully. But it's not going to be easy. Let's just get that out there. It is not going to be easy whatsoever. The Brisbane Lions are, got a home final and a prelim for a reason. So, and point of difference for me, is come back into the side. It's going to be Jack Martin. I know he's had a good good, 15 odd weeks. So it's hard to put him as point of difference. But I think people forgot we didn't have him and Harry Mackay playing last week. And we still beat Melbourne. So, Jack Martin, point of difference, key a couple of snags. Oh, God. It's getting me excited. But winner plus margin. I don't reckon all year we've tipped against Carlton, to be honest. I'd love to go through. We'll make sure we'll put a compilation of every prediction. All right. And just say, I honestly don't reckon we have. Even when we were on a 7-game losing streak, I think every episode we found a way to tip us. But now, we're one win away from the grand final, and I think the Blues are going to win by 10 points, Patto. Once again, not going to be an easy game. It's going to be tough. It's going to be real tough because the Lions are a fantastic side. So I think we're going to win by 10, and Jack Martin will kick the sealer on the run.
Could you just imagine if it's Jack Martin, the guy who, it was pretty much of course he came to Carlton in a bit of, unusual circumstance where he went through the mid-season draft. He was paid so much when he first came on. He was talked about not really being as great as what he was worth. He was on a very big pay packet, but now he is on very minimal. And
yes.
Isn't he playing his probably career best football?
Yeah,
sure. I know probably his last season or second last season at the Suns was still quite solid, but I still think this year is in that role that he's playing right now. Once again, he's almost one of our most important players. Once again, we have so many players out there where if he's not playing, of course someone else steps up, but you just feel something missing. And Jack Martin and Harry Mackay, these two players that are vital to this lineup. But so my match predictions, I'm going to start off with the best on ground. It's going to be Jacob Wiedering. It's going to be Jacob Wiedering, and I reckon it's going to be it's a good conversation where it's Oscar McInerney will probably go forward. Wiz will probably take him. I reckon he'll get probably 10 to 15 intercept marks. He's going to be massive on the prelim stage. And it's another chance for this guy to well and truly set himself alight and his club alight where he could dominate this game. So if your key defender is dominating this game, we win. So that's why I think Jacob Wiedering, it's vital that he plays a good game. Because if he's not on, we most likely lose. And most of our wins this year, he's been one of our best by a country mile. So best on ground, Jacob Wiedering. My point of difference, I've gone with the other inclusion, and it's going to be Harry Mackay. Harry Mackay is going to be the point of difference. He's going to kick 3 or 4, I'm calling. And he's going to well and truly shut up those people who say that Charlie Curnow is better without Harry Mackay. Harry Mackay is Harry Mackay. He's a Coleman medalist, mate. And people say that shit. People say that he's shit. Mate, to the people that say that, Harry Mackay can ask, okay, well, how many comments have you won, you dickhead? You dickhead? So Harry Mackay is going to be the point of difference. Now, winner plus margin. I've gone the Brisbane Lions by 67 points. No, I'm kidding. Blue Baggers by 20 points. 20 points. So instead of 10, I'm doubling it to 20 because, as you mentioned last week with the preview of the Demons, I don't think you can handle another heartache, like a pressure game. Now, this week, I don't think I can handle it. All right, I don't reckon I'll be here for the review. So I reckon Blues by 20 points. Blues by 20 points. I just want a little bit of a calmer sort of last 5 minutes and celebrate going into a grand final. That's my number one thing. So, but of course, if we win by 2 points, I'll still be happy, but I just might not be happy. Okay? So nice comment going on the run sheet. But Dash Boy, before we wrap up our prelim preview, is there anything else you would like to touch on?
Yeah, obviously, all the best to the people flying up to Brizzy. We'd love to be there too. And, the flight prices are ridiculous right now. Obviously, they chucked them up because I know Blue Bag is a stupid and nuffy enough to get up there. But no, seriously, it'll be a great experience up there. And for me personally, I'll be at the watch party at Icon Park on Saturday nights, which will be very, very good. I've been to a couple in past years, 2011 and 2013, and there's always a good vibe around the place. Everyone's supporting the one cause. There's no Brisbane dickheads around or opposition supporters around, which is fantastic. And you're at the home of our football club, and hopefully after the siren, there's celebrations of Lygon Street, because they could go until the early hours of the morning, and I'll be there for it. So we might have to do the review on Lygon Street live at 4 a.m. in the morning, but. Just get around them. We're in a prelim. Enjoy this week. Soak it all in, content wise. As Fox Footies. Watch everything, because they're talking about us a fair bit, and also to a good mate, Harrison McPhee. Good luck, mate, because we're gonna beat you.
Yes, bloody Harrow. Shit, we might actually need to send him a few messages actually, because right now I reckon I know so many Brisbane supporters, because.
Really?
Of course, my partner is she's not a diehard Brisbane supporter, but she's of course a Brisbane supporter. So right now, to all the supporters out there, we are talking at the moment, because we aren't able to talk. So she's a Brisbane supporter, I'm a Carlton supporter. So we are right now not on talking terms. No, I'm kidding, Roxy. If you're watching, I don't think you are. Shout out to you, but you're still talking. Don't you worry. But of course, as I mentioned, I don't know if I mentioned it through the episode or before we press record, but my cousin Mace is actually going up to the game. So he's a Brisbane supporter as well. So I do know a lot of people. But yeah, Harrow. So shout out to Harrow as well. Hopefully next year with the previews of Brisbane, who knows, we might even try and get him on for a chat. But yeah, it's really well wrapped up, Daffy Boy. But once again, I'm going to see if I can try and go to Icon Park. I don't know if I can, but I'm going to try and see if I can get around. But I know that I will 100% be able to watch the game. But it's just whether I can actually get down to Icon Park, because I don't know if I can handle a 3 or 4 a.m. His time in the Lygon Street. But who knows, that boy. But now, to all the viewers and the subscribers out there, it has been a fantastic season for us at Baggers Chat. Now, we don't know if this is going to be our last preview. Hopefully it's not. We have one more for the grand final. Imagine that show if it's the grand final. But to all the viewers and listeners out there, well done to all of you, because we've had an absolute blast the whole season, doing episodes twice a week. But of course, Daffy Boy, from your end with the socials, credit to you. We've both worked pretty hard throughout the year, and we're so glad to see the Carlton players going out there every single week and getting some wins. But to you, Daffy Boy, and to all the blue baggers out there, up the baggers!